Hello, everybody. Um, Thank you for this nice introduction. Thank you, the Free Press Society, for inviting me for my second speech in Denmark. I had one some years ago in Copenhagen. Today, on the way, I was thinking no single being will be in the tent because it was raining and it's cold. But it seems that Danes are different. Danes are different in many aspects. I said this word already after the Muhammad cartoons were published. I thought this country has a certain sense of freedom, which is different. As I followed the discussion in Denmark after that, I figured out that there is a conflict within the country itself between people who are in the name of freedom are publishing the cartoons and people who are in the name of freedom wants to silence and stop this kind of art which might hurt the feelings of Muslims. I myself 10 years later, became in the middle of such a discussion. I was publishing a book with the title The Case Against Muhammad, which is dealing with the founder of Islam from a critical point of view. And many people were asking me, why? Why do you do that? And my answer was always, because you are asking me. Because you wouldn't have asked me if this book was called Jesus, the case against Jesus, or the case against Moses, or the case against Buddha, or the case against Elvis Presley. You would accept any criticism of any historical figure. You wouldn't even mind. You would consider it as freedom of research, freedom of art, freedom of opinion. But when it comes to Muhammad, you make a political issue out of it, and you don't want me to do so. Some people used to tell me, the Prophet is the last stone of identity of us. Why do you attack it? Let him in peace. And I always answer to my Muslim friends who tell me that, and I say, maybe he became the last stone of your identity because you left him in peace for 1400 years. Because nobody ever dared to come closer to him. Nobody ever dared to criticize his biography. Well, there is a big debate in the academic world right now if Muhammad ever existed or not. And there are two camps, both are strong camps, and both have strong arguments. I'm referring to this conflict in my book, but my book is not about only the historic Muhammad, but Muhammad as a narrative which is influencing the life of 1.5 billion people today. If you will see most of the problems in the Islamic world, you can relate it not only to Muhammad, but also to Muhammad and his behavior. The way he was dealing with unbelievers, the way he was dealing with Christians and Jews, the way he was dealing with women, the way he was dealing with Christianity, even the way he was acting when he was going to the toilet. All of this became a huge manual, a holy manual for many Muslims, not all of them, but for many Muslims who are acting exactly according to this kind of instructions. Why is it important to criticize Muhammad today? Because I respect Muslims. I take them seriously. many people would think if you respect Muslims, you should not criticize their prophet. They might get angry. Once you pronounce his name, they get so emotional. You remember this scene? I don't know what was it, Monty Python or the John Cleese? 40 Towers, exactly. Don't mention the war. There was like a German woman, whenever she is reminded by Second World War, she was crying. So, and like everybody in the hotel was always taking care. Don't mention the war. Don't mention the war, otherwise she will start crying and she will feel offended. And this is the way we look at Muslims. We think we should not criticize the Prophet, otherwise they will get wild like an angry child and they will start throwing stones at us. I refuse this concept of human beings. I take people serious and I criticize, and I was called racist because of this. But for me, the real racist is the one who look at Muslims as children. I call this soft racism. The soft bigotry of lowered expectations. You look at Muslim and think, we cannot expect the same from them like we expect from our enlightened people. They are not so far. They are not grown-ups yet. That's racism. And that comes many times from the left side, not from the right wing, who always need somebody to protect. They used to protect the proletariat in the past, and then as the proletariat was disappearing almost from the world, they start to protect the third world, and as the expression third world is not used anymore, they need somebody to protect and to be the lawyer of. Now it's the Muslims, now it's the immigrants. And this is not the society I want to live in. I want to live in an open society where everybody is equal in negative and in positive sense. No special rights for anyone and no lowered expectations for the other groups. That's why I'm doing that. But in the West and especially in Europe, it's becoming always tougher to criticize Islam for many reasons. The first reason is the political and economic opportunism of the politicians who have businesses with Saudi Arabia, with Qatar, with Emirates, with Turkey, with Iran. They are selling weapons and they don't want their partners to get angry. Therefore, they say Islam is the religion of peace. That's it. As if we don't have eyes, as if we don't read news, as if we don't know what's going on in the world. This is one reason, the opportunism of the politicians. The second level is, of course, the lobbyism taking place in the media, in the politics, and even in the academic world, which is sad enough that many research projects when it comes to Islamic studies are funded or supported by Gulf states like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Emirates. They are even funding whole research institutes in the United States and in Europe to push the topics of Islamophobia, Islam and democracy are compatible, and things like that. So whenever they hear or read a book like mine, the first reflection, even before they read it, is this is not academic. This is not, it's not containing enough arguments. Or if you happen to have a white skin, then you are racist automatically. So there is a tactic always. If you are European, you are racist. You are Nazi, or you don't understand the Quran, or you have the wrong translation. If you are a critic with Muslim background, who understands the Quran very good, who knows the Hadith and Islamic history like he knows his own fingers, then you are a self-hating Muslim. Then you are having a problem with your own psychology. They will find always a way to criticize your criticism of Islam because it doesn't fit to their societal concepts. Politicians are afraid of criticism of Islam because of two things. Not only because the connection to Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states, but also because they have misconceptions of Muslims living in their society and with their own people. They think Muslims will get angry and the right wing will get violent, then we will have problems with violence in the society. So they don't think in a larger context and think this is freedom and we have to go through this. Like we went through enlightenment in Europe. We haven't done that with knife and fork and with while drinking coffee. It was a tough process. And the bitter cup that Europe was drinking to go through the Enlightenment cannot be spared for Muslims. We need this too. We have to have these discussions too. Otherwise, the problems will get tougher and tougher. And that's what I'm seeing right now. The more terror attacks we are having, the more criticism of Islam is becoming unwelcome. The more we feel we need to protect Muslims than protect ourselves from Muslim fundamentalists. I remember a scene which annoyed me so much after the November attacks in Paris, killing over 130 people. There was an event to mourn the victims in Place de la République in France, in Paris. And people were bringing candles and flowers, and they were silent. And the whole stage was conquered by a young Muslim who was blindfolded, who was opening his arms and saying, "Islam is peace, I'm not a terrorist, hug me." This annoyed me so much because he converted an event to mourn the victims of Islamic hatred, into an Islamic public relation event. Islam is nice. Come and hug me. I am actually the victim. Forget those who died. I am the victim because you look like this at me. So this logic is increasing. Just like after the other Paris attack happened, killing the Charlie Hebdo redactors, and killing some other clients of a Jewish supermarket, the politicians in France were not going the next day and visiting the redactors of a newspaper or of a Jewish community. They were going to a mosque to show solidarity with Muslims. And then they are proving to them, yes, dear Muslims, you are actually the victims. You are the victims of everything, even when Muslims are killing us. You are the victims. And this is not a way to deal with grown-ups. The best way to deal with grown-ups is to be honest to them and to say the truth. Or at least what you think to be the truth. And that's exactly what I have done with my book about Muhammad. I have been portraying a man who is very controversial, who is having at least two sides. One side which is peaceful and compassionate, and one side which is violent and inconsiderate. I was calling him a mass murderer because the Islamic texts themselves are depicting him as a mass murderer and even celebrating this mass murder against the Jews. I was trying to find a connection between some modern diseases in the Islamic society and Muhammad's psychology. And remember always, I'm talking about that narrative of Muhammad which is available to every Muslim in the world. The story that everybody knows. I was saying that the disease of paranoia started with Muhammad, who was considering the rest of the world conspiring against him and his community. And he was injecting his community with this attitude. Don't trust Jews and Christians because they're conspiring against us. The unbelievers are filthy. Don't get closer to them. That's the attitude which is generating generations of Islamic fundamentalists today. Looking at unbelievers, people who are not accepting Islam, everyone is unbeliever, as filthy people. This is not humanistic, and can never be the basis for living together. And this is building a high wall between Muslims and the rest of the world, and that's making integration and the coherence of the society not possible. So I'm trying to connect this with this, then I become a racist. I was depicting the disease of hatred, where it comes from. It comes from the psychology of a man who wanted to be recognized. Muhammad was always longing for recognition, and he was offering a peaceful message but was not accepted. So he turned his strategy and became violent. He started to wage wars. He started to live from war spoils. And after he have done so, he became respected because people were afraid of his sword. And this was creating an Islamic economy which is still surviving until IS. Waging wars, killing people, taking spoils of wars, taking women, selling them as slaves, and make an economy. This is how the Islamic economy was going on until the Ottoman Empire, and now it's extended by the extremists of IS and Boko Haram. Exactly the same idea of economy. And it started with Muhammad. And I am trying to explain in this book that it's not only what's written in the text, and it's not only what Muhammad has done, but it's the position of the text today, for today's Muslim, and the position of Muhammad for the Muslim identity as the last remaining stone of their identity. That's the reason. The Orlando attack is the best example for that. The best example how apologetics can work. The one who have done it is a Muslim. He has done it in the holy month of Ramadan, which is known for jihad and such attacks all over the world. He was showing his sympathy to IS just before doing this attack. But the first reactions were coming out. It's a single case. It has nothing to do with Islam. As if somebody was talking to him before and asked him, Omar, my friend, why are you planning that? Oh no, I hate homosexuals and I just want to kill 50 of them, without telling him anything. But he was talking about his religion. And then the next level is relativism. Well, also in the Old Testament you will find some passages condemning homosexuals. Yes, sure. In fact, we Muslims, we took this story from the Bible. But it is not just the text. Because when it comes to the Bible and the Quran, you have two different texts. Anyone who today would say the Bible is the literal word of God, containing instructions for daily life. All of us, I hope so, will call him fundamentalist. Right? Because Christians all over the world have learned to look at the text as having a human side, containing the interpretation of the writer of the text, containing his own language, containing his own maybe problems. And there is no instruction saying, after the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, go, good Jew or good Christian, go and kill homosexuals. There is nothing like this. But when it comes to the Quran, it's a different position. Every Muslim who accepts Islam must recognize Quran as the exact word of God that has never been changed, not even a single letter, which is containing the last manifest to human beings. The last manifest, how to live, how to deal with others, how to love, how to marry, how to eat, how to drink, who to love, who to hate, even how to act when you are on the toilet. Everything. Everything. And it contains the concept that a good Muslim is a Muslim who is changing the world with his hand, who is not accepting the sin to take place around him. One of the most famous sentences of the Quran is God is speaking to the Muslims and saying to them, you are the best community that have ever been brought to humanity because you are doing the good and you are forbidding the evil. In a very famous hadith, means a saying of the Prophet Muhammad, he's saying, whenever you see a sin, you should change it with your hand or with your tongue or at least with your heart, but this is the weak belief. So the strong belief is you change the sin with your hand. So the problem is now not the text, what's written there, because we will find problematic passages in all religions because they are from archaic times. They are made mostly by men. So you will find these problematic passages. But what is the position of the text? What is the expectation of the text to the believers? What is the political order behind this text, the political expectation? So the text in Islam is always offering an option for acting. Don't go through the world with your heart. You should go with your hand, and you should be always ready to change. That's what Muhammad did according to his biography. That's what his followers did after he died. That's what has been taking place all over the Islamic history. And that's what the fundamentalists are doing today when they are killing people, when they are compromising human rights, women's rights, in the name of Muhammad. And therefore, I consider Muhammad criticism today not only as a human right, but as a human duty. Every human being who loves humanity, who loves peace, who wants us to live together, including Muslims, must criticize Islam and must criticize Muhammad. The fact that I need to stress that in the 21st century is showing that we are having a problem. The fact that you are inviting me to speak about Muhammad today, the fact that I have to be protected by all of these people, the fact that my words might hurt the feeling of people, all of this is a clear reason why we should continue criticizing Islam. And I'm always stressing something. I'm always saying we should always differentiate between ideology and people. We should never fall into the trap of considering every Muslim to be a Quran on two legs. There are many open-minded Muslims. There are many Muslims who are accepting criticism, who are reacting to that. I don't publish my books only in Arabic, but also and only in German or English or other languages, but also in Arabic and in Persian, and I get feedback. I have a YouTube channel. I've been criticizing Muhammad on this channel like never before. This channel has been visited within few months by 4.5 million people, young Muslims, who are discussing with me. Some are angry, but some are saying, you've got a point. And there is a big debate taking place. It's a painful debate, but it has to go on. I don't need an American president who will come and stop this debate and say, like, Islam has absolutely nothing to do with violence. He's stopping those people who are start to think about the problem, the homegrown problem. We don't need patronization of anybody. We don't need patrons. We need people who will incite us to think. We don't incite to violence. We incite to think. One of the reasons why the Muhammad criticism and Islam criticism is stopped very fast, especially in Europe and in the West in general, is because there is kind of emotional blackmailing. Don't criticize Islam, otherwise you'll be supporting the right wing. And I've been always asked, same question, wherever I go in Europe, aren't you afraid that your book will be misused by the right wing to incite violence against Muslims in Europe? They are the same people who would come after every terror attacks by Islamists and will say those Islamists were misusing the Quran for their violence. So when they come to me with this argument, I told them, if Allah the Almighty is not able to protect his book against misuse, how can I, poor human being, do that? I can't. I can't. That's the logic of them. Aren't you afraid? So you have been protecting the Quran and saying the people who were killing were shouting Allahu Akbar and they were reciting the Quran. The people who are taking the rights of human beings and women's rights away are reciting the Quran. I'm asking them, when was the last time that you saw somebody slaughtering somebody reciting my book? So, which book is actually dangerous? Why are you warning against my book and you're not warning against the book which is used as manual for killing? Where is the logic? Where is the logic? I understand freedom because I paid a big price for this freedom. I'm still paying a big price for this freedom, and I'm ready to pay any price it takes. Many people are trying to silence me. I don't get silenced. And I don't get silenced by threatening. And that's what I expect from Europe. It's my last oasis. And it's the oasis of many people who left those autocratic and violent societies and came here to speak up their minds freely. All of the people who think like me that I know, who speak publicly, all of them are living under police protection. This is a scandal. And at the end, they are considered to be the problem. They are just the messengers. They are just coming and saying, take care. Tolerance against intolerance is stupidity. It's not tolerance. The best protections for everyone, also for Muslims in Europe, is that we speak up our minds and that we be honest with them and with ourselves. Consider them as equals. So if we are having no problem to criticize Jesus or Christianity or Moses or Judaism or any other religion, why should it be Muhammad and Islam to have this special position? Did Muhammad deserve this position? From my point of view, absolutely no. He caused much misery in the history and in the present time, and he doesn't deserve this, our consideration. We should look with respect to human being, but respecting human being doesn't mean respecting every garbage they think about. That doesn't mean that we respect every ideology they believe in. It's not a whole package that we have to buy. No, I respect you, I respect your mind, but I think your religion has a lot of problems, and that's problem number one, problem number two, problem number three. That's how I understand respect. Not that I consider you to be a little child who cannot deal with criticism. This is not respect. And I see this phenomena increasing. I see it at school, young students who are not able to pronounce the word Islam, otherwise their Muslim friends will flip out. I see it from teachers who cannot discuss freely in classrooms anymore, otherwise there will be emotional blockade. I see it with politicians, and I see it with even artists and writers who have to think twice before publishing something that is having the image of Kaaba or the name of the Prophet Muhammad. I think 220 years after Voltaire and after Kierkegaard and Grundtvig and Spinoza, Kierkegaard, and all of the pioneers of enlightenment, we should not roll back. We should not roll back. We are in a very crucial time. I think many Muslims need this atmosphere of free speech here so that they can make a difference in their societies. So don't fail them in the name of freedom, and don't mix freedom with cowardice. We should speak up, we should be clear about what we think, and that's exactly the point. Those who are fighting for evil, those who are fighting for ignorance, are more secure about their attitude than those who are fighting for freedom, and this cannot be the result. We should be as enthusiastic about freedom, as passionate about defending freedom, as they are passionate for defending their crazy ideology. Thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward for a good discussion.